Alright, so here they go. They say that Q is equidistant from the sides of angle TSR. Find the value of X. Remember that if Q is equidistant from T and R, then the sides of angle TSR, that means it has to be on the angle bisector. So knowing that, we have 4x plus 15 over here and 27 here. So 4x plus 15 must equal 27 because the angle is being bisected by this line, or ray SQ. So now we solve. 4x equals 12. Divide by 4, x is 3. Find the value of x. Okay, number 10 says the following scale drawing represents a bike riding path in a park. 2 feet equals 3 miles. Find the value of x. Okay, or find x in miles. So this is a right triangle, so I can use Pythagorean's theorem to find what x would be in feet. So 5 squared plus 12 squared should equal x squared. 25 plus 144. X squared will be 169. So x is 13 feet. Okay, so we find that x is 13 feet, but the question asks us to find it in miles, and so we can set up a proportion and say that 2 feet over 3 miles. We know that we have 13 feet. We don't know the miles at this time, and so now we can solve it. Cross multiply, and we'll get 2x equals 39. Divide by 2, we find that x is, 19.5. So 19.5 miles is how far x should be. Number 11 says list all the congruent sides and angles, okay, of triangle STU is congruent to triangle KLM. Remember that we have to set it up so that all those would be congruent. So we have angle S congruent to angle K, angle T congruent to angle L, angle U congruent to angle M. So all those angles are congruent. ST is congruent to KL. TU is congruent to LM. SU is congruent to KM. Make sure I go through and give those markings the same. Alright. Number 12 asks us to construct a line that's perpendicular to the given segment through the given point. Gotta give me a second to get my contractor. Okay, so if we're going to construct it through the given point, then what we'll do is try to straighten this up a little bit. Okay, remember that we will make an arc that goes through the line twice. Okay, and then from that point we'll choose another arc that at least crosses the line. So here I'm going to do 27, crosses that point. I'll go from the other point and I'll do the same thing, 27. 7, okay, and now through this and that have perpendicular line. Okay, on our test it's going to be important for you to recognize what the constructions look like, not necessarily do the constructions. Okay, number 13 says list all the corresponding angles along transversal C. So transversal C, corresponding angles, angle 1, angle 9, angle 6, angle 11, angle 2, angle 10, angle 5, angle 12. Those are corresponding, going to be in the same position. Okay. Remember that for this test, if to use a study guide the best way, if they ask you about corresponding angles, go through and say, okay, what if they ask me about alternate interior angles? What if they ask me about same side interior angles? If they ask you to like for instance number 9, use an angle bisector theorem. What about the perpendicular bisector? What does that mean? Okay, so that would be the best way to prepare for this test using this review. Alright, number 14 says given that V is the midpoint of UX and WT, prove that angle U is congruent to angle X. Okay, so again, we're going to do a two-column proof, statement, reason. Sorry, I'm going to move this around a little bit as I go, try to keep it in frame. Alright, so I'll start with the given. V is the midpoint of UX and WT. That's given. So since V is the midpoint of UX and WT, then I know that these two are congruent. So I can say UV is congruent to VX. And then I also know that VT is congruent to WV, VW. And that's because that's what a midpoint does. Definition of midpoint. Alright, from there I can say that, hey, these two angles should be congruent. Angle UVT is congruent to angle RVW because of vertical angles. Vertical angles are always congruent. My next step, I can say that these two triangles will be congruent then. Triangle UVT is congruent to triangle RVW because of side angle side. And since the two triangles are congruent then, I can say that angle U is congruent to angle X because of CPCTC. Alright, number 15 says write an equation for the line perpendicular to y equals 3x minus 7 through the points negative 6, 2. So again, perpendicular means we have to focus on the slope. Slope here is 3. Perpendicular would be the opposite, negative 3. Reciprocal, so negative 1/3. Our slope is negative 1/3. The point that we know is negative 6, 12. So we'll plug that into y equals mx plus b. Plug in the information we know. Our slope is negative 1/3. Our x coordinate was negative 6. We don't know what b is. I'll use a capital so it doesn't get confused with the 6. We know that the y was 12. So negative 1 times negative 6 is 6. 6 over 3 is 2. And so our b should be 10. So we know our y-intercept, we know our slope. Our equation will be y equals negative 1/3 x plus 10. Number 16 says two similar triangles have base lengths of 3 meters and 8 meters. Okay, so I'm just going to draw this really quick. 3, 8. The area of the smaller triangle is 54. We want to find the area of the larger triangle. So this is making us remember the similarity ratios and the area ratios. If our similarity ratio is 3 to 8, our area ratio will be 3 squared over 8 squared, or 9 to 64. So we have to use our area ratio to find this. 9 over 64 should equal 54 over x. Cross multiply 9x, 64 times 54 is 3,456. Okay, and then to find out what x is, we'll divide by 9, and x should be 384. So the area of the larger triangle is 384 meters squared. 16. Okay. Number 17 says write the equation of the line through the point negative 2, 3 with slope 1/2. So it's really just like 15, except we're just going through and plugging in our information. So our x is negative 2, our y is 3. We'll solve it. It gives us negative 1 plus b equals 3. B is 4, so our equation will be y equals 1/2 x plus 4. And then finally it says write the equation for the vertical line that contains the point 4, negative 9. Remember, vertical means that the x stays the same. In this case, the x is 4, so the equation for that vertical line will be x equals 4. Alright, oops, it's off the page. Alright. There's the second page.